let's go to the next argument. The Kalam cosmological argument. It's two premises to a conclusion. The first is everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Conclusion, therefore the universe has a cause. Now this is a fun argument. I love to use it. And it's basically, you have to, okay, if everything that begins to exist has a cause, the universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. So you have to ask, okay, now let's break this down. What is the universe composed of? That is to say, without the universe, or rather, when the universe came into existence, what began to exist? You have two things: time, space, and matter. That is to say, that without the universe, there was no time, there was no space, and there was no matter. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
No time, no space, no matter. So, from this argument, we can logically deduce that whatever caused the universe was, by default, timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. We can go further and say that this being is unimaginably powerful, since it created something out of nothing. We can also say that this being is personal because it made a choice to create, and only persons can make choices. And this cause has libertarian free will because it chose to do so freely. So if this argument holds true, we have a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, personal, unimaginably powerful, transcendent, free being.
What was the word after libertarian? Yeah, that word.
Libertarian, free will. So from one argument, not opening up a Bible, using natural theology, we can deduce a God that is at least timeless, spaceless, immaterial, unimaginably powerful, transcendent, and free. And a person, personal. Any questions on that? Now, granted, this doesn't give you a good God. That would be another argument, but that's the point of these. You kind of build on them. Any questions on that? I mean, I know that's a lot to take in. So someone says, well, why do you believe God exists? Well, because the universe had a beginning. Well, who cares? Now, here's where the science would come in. You would scientifically show that. And let's go to that. Let's say someone has an objection. One objection is someone may say, well, the universe did not begin to exist. The universe is eternal. And how would you respond to this? Well, this would then be a scientific question. One response is, well, based on modern cosmology, usually called Big Bang cosmology. You don't have to believe in the millions of years if you don't have to, but it's known as Big Bang cosmology. We have good reasons to believe that the universe had a beginning. Also, the expansion of the universe shows that the universe came from a finite point. Think of a cone. If I were to get a cone, I know this isn't a cone, but the way it is the universe started here and it's beginning to expand, which means that at one point it had a beginning. So the expansion of the universe points back to a beginning of the universe. Another point, scientifically, is a second law of thermodynamics tells us that the universe is slowly running out of usable energy, kind of like gas in a car. So if the universe was eternal, it would have run out of energy long before now. You fill up gas in your car, you can only go so far. If I were, let's say, I were to fill up my wife's car, and tomorrow I see there's half a tank, I can assume that she went somewhere. But if I go in her car and it's a full tank, I could assume that she didn't go anywhere. Why? Because things take up energy. So if the universe has been here infinitely eternal forever, and it is running out of energy, it should have run out of energy by now. One apologist once said, the universe is slowly winding down. That means someone wound it up. And if it's still winding down, then it hasn't been here forever. Questions on that?
Is it running out of energy?
It is running out of usable energy.
But not energy to... Okay, my other question, is it expanding?
It is expanding.
So it's not running out of energy to expand, it's running out of usable energy.
It's running out of energy for everything.
For existence.
It'll eventually just stop and stay still. Think of it like gas in a car. It's running out. Everything are expanding away from each other.
So there's a limit to space.
I don't know if I'd say there's a limit. You have to understand the way the universe is expanding. It's not as if it's adding on space. It's like stretching. So think of think of a balloon. You get up and just stretching the space on it, and the buttons are moving apart. But it's not that they're sliding from each other. It's that the space is literally expanding. And that's what's happening to the universe. The matter itself, space itself, is expanding, which is pretty phenomenal.
So there's already, okay, but if it's expanding, it already has
A border?
Yeah, a border.
You could say that. I don't know too much about cosmology to comment on that, but I would say that it's not that space is being added on, it's that it's expanding, not necessarily growing. Okay. Philosophical response to the objection that the universe is eternal would be, well, let me explain this, and if I need to, okay, we'll read it. The series of past events has been formed by adding one event after another. Think of dominoes. But what about infinity? Can you count to infinity? No. So if you can't count to infinity, how could you count down from infinity? Okay. The series of past events is, the reason we have a series of past events is added by adding one thing after another. So why are we here today? Because yesterday ended. Everybody agree with that? Why did we get to yesterday? Because the day before that ended. So the series of past events is added by one after another. Why can't the universe be eternal? Because you can't cross infinity. Let's explain that. Say I went to, I'm going to use this analogy that Moreland uses. Say I went to heaven, and I get to heaven, and God says, you know, Eric, I know you're saved and all, but there are some classes you taught in apologetics that weren't too good. You kind of said some things kind of weird, kind of wrong. So I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to let you in, but before I let you in, you have to count to infinity. And I say, sure, no problem, I understand that. I agree with you. So I start counting. 1, 2, 3. Let's say I get up to 5 million. And then somebody else dies and comes to heaven, and I overhear the conversation, and God tells this guy the same thing. He says, look, you know, you're going to have to start counting too. So the other person comes next to me, he starts counting, and I'm thinking, man, I'm way ahead of this guy. I'm at 5 million, he's barely starting at 0. But then it dawns on me that we're both the same distance away from our limit, which is what? Infinity.
Stopping point, which there's none.
We both have the equal amount of numbers to count. Why? Because I can never reach to infinity. Now, hence the point it says, take dominoes for example, the final domino is today. If there's an infinite number of dominoes that have to fall before we get to today. But then today could have never been reached, but here we are. So crossing infinity is like trying to jump out of an infinitely tall well. Pretend there's a well, I'm in a well, and it's infinitely tall. I can't jump out of it, because it's infinitely tall. What's worse about a universe without a beginning is that it's not only an infinitely tall universe, infinitely tall well, it's an infinitely tall well that has no bottom. So not only can I not jump out, I can't even get started. And that's the point. So in order for us to be here today, there had to be a beginning, because if there was never a beginning, the dominoes would never fall. Are you with me? So if I can't count to infinity, today is, let's say today is 0. Yesterday would be negative 1. Day before that?
-2.
Now where would we start?
0. Today.
Well, today. But if we got here today, where would we start from in the negatives? You see my point? So if I can't count to infinity, then I can't count down from, let's say someone tomorrow says, you're like, hey, how you doing? They're like, hold on, -3, -2, -1, 0. Oh my gosh, whew, that took me forever. I just counted down from infinity to 0. And you said, no, you didn't. Because what number did you start on? You know what I'm saying? So if I am here today, 0, then apparently there wasn't an infinite number of days to count before I got here. So why can't the universe be eternal? Because you can't cross infinity. All right, another objection. People will say, why couldn't the universe have caused itself? Why does it have to be God? Well, or why couldn't something natural have caused it? The response would be to say the universe caused itself would be to say that the universe existed prior to its own existence to cause itself to come into being, which is a logical contradiction. They're essentially saying, why couldn't nature cause itself? Well, because nature didn't exist. How could nature exist to cause itself if it didn't exist? You get what I'm saying? Yeah, well, if you're saying the universe caused itself, well, wait a minute, so you're saying the universe existed before it existed to cause itself to come in? It's a logical contradiction. The universe encompasses all that is nature. So to say it was something natural would again be to say that nature existed prior to its existence. it's kind of like saying or asking, what were you thinking before you existed? Or do you remember tomorrow? These are just category fallacies. These are things that can't be. Also remember, according to the argument, whatever caused the universe has to be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, since it was a cause of time, space, and matter. So a cause must be outside of an effect. So it could not. So the cause of the universe cannot be anything within time, space, or matter because it created time, space, or matter. Another objection would be, well, what caused God? Why doesn't God need a cause? We've already been over this. First of all, if they ask this, they're failing to understand the argument. Why? What is the argument? The argument is everything that begins to exist. We don't believe that God had a beginning, therefore that doesn't apply to him. Now people say, oh, you're using special pleading. You're just saying that because it fits, it's convenient for you. No, I already said an argument before that I believe God is necessary because he's not contingent. Contingent things exist which need something necessary to give them existence. Therefore, God is necessarily existent. Add on this argument, it adds on timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. Personal, unimaginably powerful, and transcendent. You follow me? Questions on that? Again, and then again, we've been over this. For them to ask, well, why did God need a cause? Would be to ask something like, well, who's the bachelor married to? Okay. Any blanks that I need to fill in? Let's go to the next one here. Next objection. And then it says, I'm sorry?
Okay.
Anybody have questions on that?
I got a question. You were talking about, like, can you remember tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Where do predictions come from?
Predictions? The uniformity of nature that, things happen. For example, I can predict that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. Why? Because that's usually what it does, and the Earth has a rotation and whatnot.
It would be natural.
Right, it'd be natural.
But how can you predict something that's not natural?
Same. I mean, I can predict that God's going to still love me tomorrow because it's by his very nature to be loving. And he can't not be loving because he's a maximally great being. I can always predict that 2 plus 2 will equal 4 because it's necessary. So, I mean, stuff like that. Some things are necessary, some things are highly probable. And some things you might not know 100% certain, but you can still say, but I still believe it. I'm not 100% certain that the sun's going to rise tomorrow because by some freak of nature, a meteor could hit it or blow it up or something could happen and the sun will rise, but I'm 99% sure the sun's going to rise tomorrow. I don't have to be 100% sure to claim to know something. I just have a justification that there's nothing going to hit it, nothing's going to destroy it, and I'm going to live on tomorrow. I have that justification. I have no good defeaters, therefore I am justified in keeping that belief as knowledge.
But that would be the same for say, atheists or the people
True.
who believe in
The
God.
only thing you would do is that you would then give them defeaters
Right.
for their justifications. And then show, here's why you can't have here's why that justification doesn't work.
Okay.
Then you would rebut or refute. Good questions. Okay. Since the cause created time, we went over that. Okay. Lastly, based on this argument from contingency, a necessary being cannot begin to exist. If God is necessary, he would equally be eternal without a need for cause, because something necessary cannot begin or be caused. That is a definition of a necessary being, which we have already argued for. So in summation, for these two arguments, in conclusion, from these two arguments alone, we can deduce that we have a being that is self-existent, logically and metaphysically necessary, uncaused, timeless, spaceless, immaterial, personal, unimaginably powerful, transcendent, free being that we call God.